We are live on YouTube as well now. Minakshi, there is a message for you on the chat box if you can see.
Miss Shil, are we starting now?
Yes, we are going to start. Okay. A very good morning, everyone. It is an honor and privilege for me to welcome you to this expert group meeting on today's webinar of Series 4, Transforming Culture, How to Bring People with You Through Change in association with Rajkumar Goel Institute of Technology, Ghaziabad. We are honored to be associated with Rajkumar Goel Institute of Technology, Ghaziabad, and we are thankful to the Honorable Chairman Shri Dinesh Goyal and Honorable Vice Chairman Mr. Akshat Goyal for associating with Let Us to Success webinar series. I heartily welcome to our panelists and our moderator for today's program. I am Michelle Khanna. I have 11 years of experience as a human resource professional and initiated L2S Virtual Learning Connect, whose objective is to bring together all the professionals and students under a single umbrella where we all are working together to achieve excellence, sustainable economic and social progress. This unique series of the webinar is designed to provide you a platform to connect with like-minded peers at the early stages of their multiple careers in different sectors. Here, invaluable insights from senior professionals on career advice during these uncertain times and discover how best to support your organization as the coronavirus pandemic unfolds. Before we get started, I would like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's webinar. You will have the opportunity to submit text questions to today's guest by typing your questions into the chat option. You may send in your question at any time during the webinar. We will collect these and address them during the Q&A at the end of today's session. I request you to please type Q before typing your question. I repeat again, I request you to please type Q before typing your question. Kindly register yourself to our social channel YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. You can find our account by the name of L2S World. Soon the links would be shared to you all in the chat box. If you want to get free knowledge and job updates, you can join our Telegram channel by the name of Led Us to Success and even our LinkedIn page L2S World. I again welcome our panelist and our moderator for today's program. Now I would like to introduce our moderator for today's program, Ms. Minakshi Khera. She is the director HR of EBUE Selection Robot, a seasoned HR professional, more than 2 decades of comprehensive experience in the end-to-end gamut of IT, manufacturing, hospitality, and health sector. She is also happens to be General Secretary PNGI. Minakshi is a regular speaker in various HR forums and a panelist, sharing her views on the best practices around talent acquisition and management. Minakshi is an inheritor of the top 100 HR Minds and Super Achiever Award in 5th Femina World Women Leadership Congress Awards at the World HR Congress. She is a panelist, she's a guest speaker for various colleges and universities. If we name them, few is like NIIT, Indo Global Group of Colleges, Chandigarh, AKTU, BTech, Sharda, MIT, local chapter regularly. So these are the few areas where she has been working.
ठीक है बेंगलुरु वापस हमारी आखिरी गाड़ी है सैली बेंगलुरु फिल्म में इसका रंगीला होता है लेकिन यहाँ पर बेंगलुरु है चलो देखते हैं
Michelle, I think somebody's mic is unmuted.
I request all the participants to kindly please mute themselves and maintain the dignity of the webinar. Minakshi, if you can kindly unmute yourself. Yeah. Meenakshi. So Meenakshi is already got a Women a Super Achiever Award in 5th Femina World Women Leadership Congress Awards at World HRD Congress. She is a guest speaker and panelist to various colleges and universities like Delhi Pharmaceutical Science and Research University, MIT, Sharda, BeamTech, AKTU Lucknow. She is also a well-known speaker at LinkedIn local chapter. Besides getting She have been regularly contributing to leading HR magazines, newspapers such as People Matters, Human Factor, People Management, HRD, Dainik Jagran on future challenges of HR. We really welcome to you, Minakshi. Thank you so much for coming and joining us. And over to you now.
Okay. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you're audible. Give me a one moment.
Yeah.
Yes, please. You need to unmute yourself.
Michelle, hello.
Yes, yes, Meenakshi.
Yeah, so basically, if you mute all, then I'm also muted.
Yeah, I have unmuted you now.
All right, okay. So, Michelle, please go ahead and introduce all the panelists, and then we will start today's webinar.
Okay, so let me introduce my all the panelists today. The first speaker is Miss Saloni Kaul, and Saloni is India's first woman HR business mentor and entrepreneurship coach with over 30 years of leadership consulting, coaching, mentoring, and training. She has held leadership responsibilities at the finest names in the industry: Dell, EMC, Tata Consultancy Services, Tata to name a few. In 2012, she founded India Talent Services as an HR business consulting and coaching firm focused on startups as MSME with a mission to. I will request all the students to kindly please, just 1 second. Yeah, I guess that is better. Yes. So about Saloni, she in 2012 she focused India's talent HR services as HR business consulting and coaching firm focused on startups and MSMEs with a mission to support organization build and grow their business and people practices. In 2013, she was honored with the Best Business Plan Award by ISB Goldman Sachs 10,000 Women Entrepreneurship Program. In 2019, she was recognized with the HR Influencer title by Women Innovator. In 2020, she came up with her first book, Saloni's 50 Best Ideas. Even in July 2020, she wrote her next co-authored book, The Growth Hacking. Fellow of the Startup Leadership Program, she is a mentor with Shaktipreneur, core committee member of ISB Women Entrepreneurs Group NCR chapter, General Secretary, Faridabad Management Association, and life member NHRDA. We welcome you, Tony. Thank you so much for joining us. Our next speaker for today is Mr. Deepak Jalan, who is popularly known as DJ within his peer group. He is highly accomplished professional with nearly 24 years of experience in talent acquisition, strategy planning, business operation, P&L management, HR business partnering, and leadership for SME, blue chip, and Fortune 500 clients. Deepak is a founder and CEO with HR Honkos. It, his last work assignment was in Group Head RMG with Tech Mahindra. He has led several large multinational organizations creating high performance team and successful businesses. Spanco, Spice, HCL, ITC are some of the reputed organizations that reflects Deepak's professional background. Deepak is an English graduate from Agra University and PGDBA from Symbiosis, along with various training certifications like Six Sigma, MGP, Project Management, and PCMM. He has been honored prestigious award like Guru, the People Manager Award, Grand Salute Award, ACE Award, Pat on Back, Manager of the Month, Associate of the Year, Achievers Award, Best Support Function Award. The buck doesn't stop here, as Deepak is a vice president of Lions Club. He is also associated with various firms like NSDC, TIE, NASCOM, CAI, FICCI, etc. etc. Thank you so much, Deepak, for joining us here. We are so glad and honored to for us to be here and you as part as a panelist. Thank you so much. Our next speaker for today is Miss Philippia Mathewson. She is a highly experienced and accomplished senior leader with 40 years of global experience specializing in people and cultural development and change across a variety of sectors, including financial, travel, and professional services. She has held senior leadership roles within operations, customer service, and sale, global transition, learning, leadership, and talent, and colleague engagement. During her career, she has created award winning strategies implemented within Europe, Africa, Asia, and Middle East. Philippa has led remote and multicultural teams within fast moving environments where she has achieved exceptional results. Philippa is a certified employee engagement specialist, company culture architect, international leadership trainer, facilitator, and coach and professional speaker. She is based in the Delhi NCR region. India, where she has lived and worked for the last 15 years. We welcome you, Kripa. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are very glad. And now I would request our moderator, Meenakshi Khera, to please continue with the webinar.
Okay, thank you so very much, Michelle, for such a detailed introduction about all of us. A very, very good Sunday morning to all the participants, powerful panelists. Namaste from India. It's my great pleasure and honor to be a part of this esteemed panel today, which is being organized by L2S Virtual Learning Connect. And they are definitely doing a wonderful job in, coming up with different topics every Sunday. So today, the topic is transforming culture. How to bring people with you through change because people are important assets. So let me share some data to begin with. 96% of our people think that culture change is needed in their organization. And that's why, according to some of the consultant studies, reveals that 84% believe that organizations' culture is critical to business success. 60% say culture is more important than company strategy. 96% say some form of culture change is needed within their organization. 51% believe their organization is in need of a major culture overhaul. 45% do not think their culture is being effectively managed. 48% do not think they have the capabilities required to deliver lasting change. Change has become the new normal. And with organizations responding to advancing technology, intense competition, rising customer expectations, and the need for few skills, change requires people to flex, begin doing things in completely different ways. Transforming culture as an organization can be a challenge and must be handled with care. You can't borrow culture and you just deliver what you think it is going to be. You need to get the buy of your employees and involve them in the process and discussions. So without any further delay, let me go on to our first panelist, Saloni. uh, as we all know that culture flows from top to bottom. So, Saloni ji, I want to ask you what are the elements of creating a great work culture, and especially for leaders, because leaders are the pillars of any organizations, and they are the ones who set the culture in the organization. So, please share few elements which really helps in creating a great place work culture. Over to Saloni ji.
Saloni, kindly unmute yourself, please.
Yes, I got it now. So thank you so much for having me here today. It's a pleasure and happy to share my thoughts on the question that you asked, Meenakshi. So, like you rightly pointed out, there are several elements of creating a great work culture, and I believe that if you're able to, so what is culture? Let's first look at what is culture. Culture is about how do things happen in an organization? What are the behaviors? What are the values? How are these getting demonstrated at the workplace? Do you have something that's written on the wall? Like your stated values, but are the people really, following those values? So any organization will have its culture which is apparent, which is visible, and though it may not be aligned to what is really required. So how do you go about creating a great work culture, which is very important and imperative, because great organizations who want to fast track, who want to grow quickly, these are organizations that they can't do without just having a strategy. They also need to have a great work culture supporting that strategy. You can have the bestest of strategies, but if the work culture is not supporting it, then your culture can really eat your strategy for breakfast. That is what the saying goes. So what are the great elements? Let's look at it. Number one, I believe that having a purpose, and connecting people to a purpose. And there's so many case studies that have you know people might have read. And the one that comes to my mind today is Dr. Reddy's case study, in which they did a project with IDEO. And what they came up with is a tagline, and though they didn't really start to put those taglines all over their workplace, but what that tagline really meant was that the patient can't wait. And they wanted to demonstrate this. So they needed to create a work culture in which people always had this at the back of the mind of whatever we are doing, the patient can't wait. Be it in the way the medicine is being packaged, be it in the way the customer service function is responding to queries, because the patient can't wait. Like the health can't wait. Precisely, that is the tagline. So having a purpose which is beyond just commercial reasons, beyond just profit, and connecting people to that purpose is an important way of helping them feel really good about their company. And this is so important because there is a very high correlation between the way your employees or employees of any organization feel about the company and the way the customers also feel about the company. So if the employees are not really aligned and not feeling good about the company, you can imagine that customers will also be not feeling good about the company, because there's a high correlation. So if you have values, don't just them put them on bullet boards or paper. You should be able to walk that talk, and this is really about creating a great work culture, having a purpose, and also declaring what values you have and making it part of the way, so that these values are genuinely part of the company's culture. They're not just adorning the walls of the conference rooms or the shop floors wherever employees are working out. And then I would say communication, open communication. So, how are the employees feeling? There should be a good sense, a very good flow of communication. It's very crucial to any organization. In instance, a simple conversation can go much farther than any other email in the box. And I always advise my clients that share what's happening. You have these monthly town halls, or are you just having them for the sake of having them? But if you are communicating and engaging with your people and letting them know that these are the great things that happened in the month before, and these are some of the areas that came up, and we need to work on this, and let's we are open to looking at suggestions that are coming from people. So if there is this open communication, these lines of communications, if there's trust, if there's openness, and people are encouraged, and not just encouraged, they are celebrated, they are rewarded, they are recognized. It is all about looking at these real time connections, which is so important to develop relationships with the people around you. Now we know that any fertile culture is one that recognizes that when things don't work, we need to really adjust, we need to rectify. So people need to feel safe, they need to feel trusted, to understand that they can speak freely without fear of repercussion. Otherwise, you may have heard of, like we have an open door policy, like some company calls, that we have an open door policy. What really happens at that open door policy is that it is not really practiced, right? People don't even go in because they know that there's no point, because nobody's going to even listen to what their suggestions are. And they will probably be told that just do what I have told you. Don't overwork your brain, just go and do what I have told you. So then people say that, okay, what's the point of coming up with suggestions? So these are the anomalies. Now if we want to have a great work culture, it's important that we have these open communications, we are celebrating, we are creating an environment of trust between the senior management, the employer, and the employees. We're sharing, we're talking about numbers, we're talking about goals. Our employees really, do they have a really good understanding? Are goals really defined? Are they understanding their professional growth path in the company? Are we raising bars? Are we raising them constantly? Because we know that there's no room for complacency, because if you do that, then obviously you're going down instead of going up. And that's how you can keep challenging and keep going up and up. And then I believe that in communication, it's important to be listening to employees. And if you are not listening, if we talk about employee experience, what is the employee experience that employees go through? It could be just a candidate who's coming in for an interview, for example, but what did he experience while he was there? And that really matters, because if you induct him, the experience starts from the time he enters the organization as a candidate until the time he walks out. So saying thank you, for example. I mean, there are so many things. If you've said some things and keep your promises, nothing poisons a culture more than a lack of integrity at the highest levels. And I have seen of, I know of people who left organizations with this thing, that they promised me certain things and they didn't do it. And that's the definition of the work culture there. And truly, no organizations wants to be known for breaking promises. So um, I guess I've shared a lot. Yeah, but these are all very important points in determining those elements which create a great work culture. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Saloni, for highlighting such a beautiful definition of culture and the various elements, which makes the organization a great place to work for. There is a quote I would like to mention here. Culture does not change when we desire to change it. Culture changes when the organization is transformed. The culture reflects the realities of people working every day together. So, with this note, I would like to go on to our another HR expert of the day, Deepak. So, Deepak, we have been talking and hearing about agility. Being agile is the new buzzword, and everybody talks about agility and productivity. So, my question to you today is that we have discussed what role leaders play in culture. By Saloni, that culture flows from top to bottom, and leaders are the one who set the culture right. So, how? My question to you is that how important this agility is in transforming the culture. You know. So, over to you, Deepak.
Hi, thanks, Meenakshi, for this session. Welcome all. First of all, a very good morning. A happy Sunday to you. So let me just tell you what we are. Basically, we are HR honchos, and we are a global workforce management and a professional services company. So this agility, and when we talk about employees, it becomes very important because we are nothing but we provide manpower to the entire industry, right from CXOs to the entry level. And COVID-19 has somehow changed the entire world. Excuse me. So earlier it used to be like office 9 to 6. Now everybody, it's like home 24/7. And what we have seen is there are a lot of changes, not only from organization standpoint, but also from an employee standpoint. And yes, there was a lot of chaos for a month or so, but now things we have seen, now we're in a time where things have settled down, the policies are in place, the HR of all large organizations and mid organizations are really working hard to make ensure that they create a wow culture for the employees vis-a-vis, so that they can come out for a better productive person, productivity, and aligning the employees with the mission and objective of organization. So typically, I would like to say most of the organization, what they have done to get this agility in place. We especially, if I have to talk about what we have done and what we have been able to guide a few of our mid and large organization and our clients, we ensured certain things so that the ecosystem is there in terms of a person who is working from home. So to create a culture within an employee, it is very important that we ensure that he is happy, he is taking care of his family, he is in an environment wherein he's able to prove himself. Because 9 to 6 culture is like, when you are in office, you tend to leave your home way back at home, but you are working in office 9 to 6, and you're more focused towards that particular assignment which has been given. But here there is no chart, so it is an open environment. You have people coming in from your folks disturbing you. At times there are multiple meetings lined up, off schedules lined up, so all those things I need to take. So expectation setting was one thing which was very important for every one of us to do. So we had defined the clearly roles that how we need to build in the KPIs, the KRA, keeping in mind the work from home environment. And to ensure those KPIs and KRAs to take place, we have to ensure the working, because when in office, if there is a downtime, it's a downtime, it's okay. But where you're working from home, there are certain issues which crops up, technology issues I'm talking about. So we need to ensure that the employees are taken well care of in terms of the productivity when it comes to the connectivity, the laptops, the way they access the files from Google. So we need to ensure that there is a DR plan, and there is a backup plan in terms that they are able to access all the relevant information which they want. So to so that they are agile, because many times what happens in office, you have someone or the another to support, but on a live environment or work from home culture, it becomes very difficult for an employee if there is a connectivity issue, if there is a less of somehow in India we have a very good broadband, so that was leveraging. So that was one which we ensured that we had multiple connections, we had laptops, we had the ecosystem around. Second thing was a policy which was very important, moving from 9 to 6 culture. So typically, if you talk about it in an employee head, it is like 9 to 6, I will go 9 to 6 and off, then I'm completely off. Whereas here, Yona has to, he himself has to plan his day. It cannot be 9 to 6. So we gave a flexibility that, okay, you plan your day, you work as per your timesheet. What we want is a productivity, not the 8 hours or a 9 hours job. Because in work from home, typically we have to understand, and each employer has to understand whether that employee is able to cater 9 to 6, or he's able to give more productivity. Here the productivity is what is required, not just 9 to 6. So we gave a flexible window. They can take breaks, but yes, they have to be very professional in terms of how they need to manage people. Generally, we always used to say that they need to have they need to ensure that when they are productive, they need to set a timetable towards and where they have to sit, how they have to work. Because we found initially time that people were taking calls from bed. They were there in one of the rooms. There was chit chat and all those things coming in. But what happened was that their productivity was going down. So we ensured that you please take out the time during the break cars with the family time, take more family time. But that at the same time, when there is, especially to interact with the clients and all, you have to ensure a good background. You have to follow a dress code and all. And it turned out to be fantastic. Now in a culture of a work from home culture, when we interact within our peer group, we ensure we whenever we have a time, so we involve the family as well. The kids are also there on calls at times. Yes, those are the break times. So we cannot there is a kid in the family, he would like to see what his parent is doing. So we can't say no culture. So we have to, the employers and the employee has to be very open, that they give time to them also, so that they are on the same platform. We One thing which was very important when the culture was being built was compensation and benefits. Many employees, what they did, because they're working from home, they decrease the salaries and all. I agree that there are business impacts, but instead what we did was we increased the salary by 10% by stating that, okay, if this is the productivity which you will bring in, you take off the extra 10%. So eventually it is like benefiting and over and above. So the employees, even out of sight, out of mind scenario, they were able to give better productivity. It was not 9 to 6, it could be mostly 9 to 9 or maybe 9 to 12. So they were able to perform the set task towards the organization goal, and they were able to deliver a lot. We we created an ecosystem within the teams. So we did not make it like, you are a work from home and there is a complete out of touch. We ensured that they are very much in touch. We ensured that we do a lot of VC calls. We ensured that the commute time which used to take, so we used to come all of informally before we log in. So we are doing a chit chat, we are gossiping around. So typically what happens in the boardrooms where prior to the meeting starts. So the environment was virtual, but it became more of a physical environment, and now everybody is it's how they are managing. And then we also did a lot of employee engagement, because in office, yes, whatever we used to do in office, now we started doing at home. So there are there are lunch parties. We order burgers. For example, we order a burger, let's say Friday 1 o'clock, everybody gets a burger, and we are there online, we are enjoying virtual coffees. At times we have also done tambolas, wherein we involve even the employee's family. So we distribute the tambola tickets and all, and the employees come on. So that way, it is, we are making it more of a physical environment than a virtual. So not making very monotonous for our employees, that the bosses are only talking about work, but then we are also talking about a lot of other activities. And the one thing which is very important for an employer and employee is trust. So we have to build trust in our worker, and the same way we as an employee, they have to trust their employer. So that is very important. And encouragement towards the transparencies. For example, if somebody is not able to attend a particular call, or somebody is not able to do a set task, one has to be very transparent enough. And all these initiatives has really got us, like, work from home has come as a blessing to us, if you ask me, especially to IT clients. We as recruitment partners, HR partners, all the most of the organization which has moved from work from home. So if we talk about the benefits which we got, office space is not a constraint. We plan to expand. Now we can expand exponentially. So we don't need that, okay, we only have 100 200 cubicles, the whole world is a cubicle, so we can move on there. Commute issue has gone, where an employee used to come late there, and we are able to hire the best across the globe. So it's not that, okay, we are in Delhi NCR, so we need to hire only in Delhi NCR. We can go anywhere. Pension has also gone up. There's a flexibility in working which has come in, anytime, anywhere, people are available. And that has resulted in increase of productivity. And frankly speaking, it has reduced the stress now. Earlier, this was work from home was a big no, how to do, how not to do. But yes, now even a small kid has learned how to study at home. So we are building that culture right from a kid level to a worker level. So this is going to stay, and that this is what the future is.
Wow, great.
Thank
Deepak,
you.
Deepak, you rightly said. In fact, it's COVID has been a teacher for some and it's been a torture for some, right? So,
True.
with the kind of insights you have shared about your organization is inspiring me to join your organization now. So,
You're most
uh,
welcome.
yeah. So, I mean, you rightly said this is the time we are all learning, we are all experiencing reverse mentoring, what we've been talking about. Even a child at home is teaching his or her parents or grandparents how to set up a Zoom call, how to have parties virtually, how to stay connected virtually, which was not there in earlier days. And you rightly said that family plays a very, very significant role in bonding with your employees. And now, since if I look at in my family, my kids have grown seeing me as an HR professional. I've been working since last 23 years. So they were not really aware what I do. I mean, they know I'm in HR, but beyond that, they have no idea at all what HR is all about. But now my kids are so used to that they know when I have webinars, when I have my meetings, and when I have my interviews lined up. So they are quite used to, and they are learning what HR is all about. In fact, sometimes I involve them also in, taking interviews. I mean, they should be knowing that how we evaluate the candidates, based on various behavioral competencies. So, without any further delay, I would like to go on to our last powerful panelist, Philippa. So she's again coming from, a vast background of 40 years, 4 decades of an experience. Wow, Philippa. So there's so much to learn from you, I'm sure. And so we have spoken about leadership, we have spoken about agility. So my question to you now is that employees play a very, very significant role. They are the assets, they are the pillars of any organization. So if you have right people, your organization will definitely be a great place to work for, because it's only people who make the organization or who break the organization. So my question to you is that how employees need to be prepared for culture, change, as people are the asset for any organization. So it's very, very imperative for employees to adapt a culture too. So please give us some highlights on how we can empower our employees for this culture change. Over to Philippa.
Thank you so much, Meenakshi, and thank you for such a generous introduction. And I really should start changing my introduction. 40 years experience is really giving my age away, so I really need to do something about that.
Yeah.
And being an employee engagement specialist and a company culture architect, this is something really, really close to my heart, as you can imagine. And like you, I'd like to just start off with a few statistics, if I may. And this is all based on recent research from places like Forbes and Harvard and Gallup and all these other kind of things, but particular points that I think our audience today would be interested in. So 46% of job seekers say that company culture is very important when choosing to apply for any company for a role. And in fact, 47% of active job seekers say that company culture is their driving reason for actually looking for work. Another interesting stat is that 15% of job seekers actually turn down a job offer because of the company's culture. And just a couple of extra facts here. 35% of workers today say that they would actually pass up on the perfect job if they felt the company culture wasn't the right fit for them. And employees who don't actually like their organization's culture are actually 24% more likely to quit. So these are pretty staggering statistics when we actually think about them. And as my fellow panelists have very already eloquently described, company culture is something that's very unique. It's often described, I guess, as the personality of an organization. It's what you stand for. It's what makes a company unique. And actually, whilst there is actually a lot of talk about company culture at the moment, the truth of the matter is that culture is actually very hard to talk about. And I like to use the analogy here of a goldfish in a goldfish bowl. If you think of this goldfish swimming around, he's actually surrounded by water, but he can't actually see what he's swimming in. And that's actually what it's like for any organization when it comes to company culture. You can't see what you're swimming in when you're actually in the company. And this is because the culture of any organization, it's not written down, it's not captured anywhere, it's not put into any company manual at all. It kind of exists as a set of unwritten rules that impacts all kinds of things, from productivity to purpose to profitability. And it kind of ripples across many other areas as well. So areas such as critical functions, such as recruiting, which we've already mentioned, retention, leadership, team development. It even impacts strategic initiatives like mergers or restructuring. And also it impacts employment brand and also the organization's brand experiences. So, when we're in like devastating times like we are now, with this pandemic around us, we actually only have our company culture the personality of our company to fall back on. It's one of the key foundation stones of any organization. And I'd just like to share a quick example, if I may, of a recent experience that I had. Last year, I went into work with an owner of an IT company, and he knew that he had a problem, but he didn't actually know what it was. He couldn't actually pinpoint what the problem was. The company or the organization was a startup that had seen really rapid growth. And over the last few years, it's doubled, tripled, and actually quadrupled in size. And when I was talking to him about his company, he described it in a really lovely way. He described his company from growing from a newborn baby, something to love, something to cherish, something to cuddle, into an absolute troublesome teenager, something that he hardly recognized anymore and actually didn't want anything much to do with, if he was being really honest. So I spent some time in the organization on a kind of discovery trip, I guess, and I found out there were a number of challenges which all pinpointed to company culture as you know, it sadly wasn't for the better, really. It was actually going on the decline rather than on the incline. And just a few things that I found out that pinpointed me to that was number one, the employees, the colleagues in the organization didn't actually know what the organization's vision and values were. So the vision and values, as Saloni already mentioned, is the lifeblood of an organization. If you don't have that, how can anybody form any attachment to any organization? And I always describe this when I'm describing what I do as an employee engagement specialist. I say I help people fall in love with their organizations, because that's when the magic happens. And if you don't have the vision and values, what are you going to fall in love with? You can't fall in love with bricks and mortar. It has to be what the company stands for, the company culture. There was also a problem around the perception of a lack of fairness in the organization. Because it had grown from a very family-run organization and grown to a really considerable size, people were thinking, you know, that there was a perception of a lack of fairness in pay, in career. The old adage of, oh, he only gets promoted because he's a favorite. You know, allocation of work. All the good projects go to Deepak because Deepak's a favorite of the manager. You know, that kind of thing was a perception. The company had also lost its roots. Nobody knew the company story. Nobody, you know, all the new people who joined didn't know how the company was built or where it came from. And innovation had very much stifled and stopped. You know, it had gone from an organization where innovation was positively encouraged to a place where, oh, well, this is the way we do it. We just have to do it. So there were a number of things that were troubling the organization. And if you link this back to what employees actually want at the end of the day, all employees, all people want when they work for an organization is that they want work that's stimulating them and it's enjoyable. They want to do a good job. They want to have connection at work, as Deepak's already said, and they want to have friendship in a work environment, whether that be online or whether that be offline, depending on where we are. People also want to learn, grow, and enjoy the experience at work. They want to be appreciated. They want to be recognized. That's not necessarily awards all the time, but you know, the odd thank you now and again actually goes a very long way. And I have to say, and I'm particularly addressing the majority of our audience here, I'm guessing many of them are millennials. And millennials in particular actually care, and all the statistics prove this, they actually care more about organizational culture, more about job fit, more about growth opportunities, more about work-life balance than they actually care about compensation, be that money or actual benefits. And it's really important to pay attention to this now, because the millennials are the largest number of employees in the workforce and they're only growing. You know, people like me, who's a baby boomer, we're getting out the door now. It's the millennials that are very much came in. And former CEO of GE, Jack Welch, he once famously said, the soft stuff is the hard stuff. You know, the soft stuff like company culture is the hard things to do. So I'm just going to share, and actually just a few things that organizations can do, and then also what future employees or employees can do to actually help this out. So from an organizational point of view, first and foremost, my number one piece of advice in all my experience is define a set of desired values, a vision statement, and behaviors. You know, this is three of us now, Saloni, Deepak, and I, saying the same thing. We have to make sure that people can really understand and relate to the organizational culture on a day-to-day basis. This means coming up with things like behavioral descriptors for each value so you can clearly define what is expected from each individual and at all levels. You know, it's not one rule for the workers and something else for the C-suite. It's the same for absolutely everybody else. Organizations also need to align their culture with their strategy and their processes. You know, we have to look at our mission, our vision, and our values, and really consider how they line up with the HR processes, including things like hiring, things like performance management, things like talent management, compensation, all that good stuff. It has to align. If it doesn't align, you've automatically got it's like compelling magnets. They're not going to stick together. The third point I would say is all about connect culture to accountability. It really is easy in these, particularly in these difficult times when so many of us are working remotely, to forget the values that we've set in place. And, you know, and the values suddenly start to go down or disappear because we're not actually working together. We're not in an environment where we can all actually see the behaviors behind the values. But it's important that we actually do this and connect culture and accountability. And the final piece of advice that I would give for any organization is measure it. The number of organizations that say to me that you can't measure culture, you absolutely can. And we all know that what gets measured gets managed. You know, we can really demonstrate the effectiveness of our efforts by things like employee engagement surveys. These are very different to staff satisfaction surveys. They're not the same. Things like talent analysis and identifying gaps between the desired behavior and the actual behavior. So these are just some of the tips I would share with organizations, but sharing a few tips with our listeners today around what they could actually do as an employee or as a future employee of any organization. So the first thing I will say is, and I'm going back to the same thing, own your company vision, value, and behaviors. Live them, breathe them, just as if you were the CEO of the organization. Behavior breeds behavior, and it's really infectious. And if you start to do that, you'll be amazed at the number of other people around you that will do that as well. So, and if you don't know what the vision and values and behaviors are, ask. And, you know, I would suggest it's a great interview question. You know, ask the organization, what is the vision, values, and behaviors? It's very important, particularly, as I said already, to our millennials. I also would say from a cultural point of view, it's important for you to own your role. Kind of hold up a mirror to yourself and you know, ask yourself, am I part of the problem? Too many employees say, oh, it's a cultural problem. It's a cultural problem. The management, the leadership need to do something about it. But the culture doesn't exist without the people. You've already said that, Meenakshi. So we have to hold ourselves up, our mirror in front of ourselves. And in most cases, there's at least a few things that we can do personally to change ourselves. So whether it be things like your personal attitude, the effort you put into making a positive contribution to the organization, things like, I guess, things like how you communicate with others. These are just a few things that you can do. And we all think we're perfect, but at the end of the day, we're not. We have to hold that mirror up in front of ourselves and think, is there really something that we can do? I would also suggest that we use our influence to make things better. Now, just because you're not in a senior leadership position or a leadership position, that doesn't mean to say you can't influence. You would have heard the phrase, you know, manage your manager. It's absolutely right. True leaders in the companies are not always the boss. They're not always the people on top. Natural leaders, they set examples to people that they know. You know, be an advocate of your company, be an advocate of what you do, and influence those around you. You'll be surprised how much it ripples out across the organization. And I guess finally, I would say it's our responsibility as employees to stay engaged. You know, I hear a lot in my line of work. Oh, we have to get the employees engaged. Employee engagement isn't something you do to people. It's a part of the culture of the organization. And company culture is one of the very foundation stones of employee engagement. And it needs to be owned by everybody. You know, I don't believe that, doing pizza, I say to many of my clients, they say, I want my people to be happy. Yeah, happy is something, satisfied is something. But if you want people to be happy, just buy them pizzas on a Friday. They'll be happy. That doesn't mean that they're truly engaged. And as I said earlier, totally in love with their organization. And that's where the magic happens. And I kind of just want to end this piece just with a little quote, if I may. And it's a quote, not particularly well known quote from Lou Gerstner from IBM. And what he says is, culture isn't just one aspect of the game. It is the game. In the end, an organization is nothing more than the collective capacity of its people to create value. So a very long answer to your question, Meenakshi. Apologies for that, but I wanted to make sure that I answered it thoroughly. So back over to you.
Great, great, Philippa. In fact, it was wonderful, wonderful. You explained it so well, so well. Culture, is something which is the base of any organization. You rightly said that people need to be in love. They have to actually romance with your company. So
I guess Meenakshi's network is very bad in that. Let's Meenakshi come. In the meantime, if you prefer that we could launch a poll, will that be fine with everyone? We are soon going to launch a poll, and I would request each and everyone to please participate on the poll. And I would request the panelists also to participate in the poll. So here we are launching a poll. So here you can see the poll. I would request each and every participant to please read the poll and look forward that what the best you can answer. There are two questions. I'm reading the question one by one and request at the same time the panelists also to please participate on that. Question number one says that what are the biggest challenges you face or have faced in building your organizational culture? I guess everyone has faced when we are actually working as an employees. We have seen even being as a leaders of an organization. This is something I guess the biggest challenge we face. So according to you, you can choose multiple options as well if you think that one answer is not enough. Is it like reinforcing new behavior to attain change? Is it because of change fatigue? Is it because of lack of direction, alignment, commitment from senior team? Is it because of lack of resources? Is it because of resistance from manager, senior team, or staff? Is it because of short-term focus on top-line growth, geography, cultural misalignment, communication, inexperience across leadership or key executors? Is it because of incorporating innovations into business culture? Is it because the measuring the impact of good corporate culture, we fail to do that? What, according to you, you think is the biggest challenge we face as an employees or as an employer build our organizational culture? Moving on to the next of the question, which is overall, how are you addressing these challenges? Now we know that, of course, we would face challenges. So how do we address those challenges? That is also something which is interesting and important. So according to you, would you like to conducting leadership training and coaching? I would believe that this is the best solution for that, but not going towards the my tempting zone. So let us see more options. Establishing a clear organization vision and purpose. Is it because empowering staff to effect changes? We can set clear behavioral change goals. Is it that we can involve staff as change agents? Can we create alignment? Can we have to adopt more of storytelling, which help and engage our employees? Is it because of organizing peer to peer or peer to leader coaching or feedback sessions we need to provide more? Or shall we identify the critical areas of misalignment between the current and desired cultures? Or shall we developing informal peer networks and motivators? What, according to you, believe is that we need to work? I would request each and every participant to understand the questions. Take your time. We have 2-3 minutes to end this poll. Please think about it. According to you, what is your call? If you are working, and even if the students are here, you have no experience as of now, but still, if you want to join any organization, what you will think that how the culture should going to be and how it going to affect. So accordingly, thinking in that perspective, kindly vote. It looks like 50% of the participants have responded. Those of you who have not yet responded, go ahead and submit your responses now, and we will close the poll in a few moments. And I'm glad that Minakshi is back.
Yeah, I'm sorry for the technical glitch.
Yeah, we
My
got it.
network
And
just went.
we have just taken your time to poll actually.
Great,
We have
great,
launched the
great.
poll. And I would request you also to please participate in the poll as well.
Sure.
I would request more participants to kindly please vote, everyone. The more you poll, the better results we can see, and we can assume that yes, this is what the expectations for millennials, which Philippa has talked about. I'm feeling tempted towards and want to wait more time that maximum participant could participate in this. Come on, everyone. In the meantime, till the participants are taking time, Minakshi, Deepak, Saloni, Philippa, what do you think about the questions of the poll? I guess these are the questions which you have faced many a times at your places.
Now, Michelle, quite realistic questions.
Yeah, and I don't want to lead the audience that still haven't voted yet by sharing my inputs, but they're very poignant questions, I have to say.
Relevant questions.
Yeah, during the COVID time, I think these questions were the one which has impacted everyone, and there was a reasoning for how to answer these questions. So every organization faced similar questions. I think they're very, very relevant, and many of us have come out with answers for these questions in our own organizations.
That's correct. That's correct. I can see 53% voted. I guess maximum student might face a problem in vote. Doesn't matter. Whatever you feel is right, you can join back and you can cast your vote. And once you join your organization, you'll get to know about it. And even the leaders are here, so you can ask these questions from them as well. I can see 58%. The number is increasing. Excellent. Many participants are still need to cast your vote, please. Okay, let me not take much of Meenakshi's and others leaders' time. I guess let's give 5 seconds to them and we can end the vote, end the polling. Okay, let me end the polling and let's see the results. I guess everyone can see the results. In question number one, the biggest challenge you face or have faced in building your organizational culture, 28% people says that it is because of lack of direction, alignment, commitment from senior team. And if we talk about the overall addressing these challenges, I guess 54% of the participants says that conducting leadership training and coaching is mandatory and we should work on that. On that note, I guess we should stop sharing the results. Over to you, Meenakshi.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. And in fact, my apologies. It was just a technical glitch, and but then you beautifully engaged people. You know, this is what we were talking about, engaging people. So now, whatever we have discussed in last 40 minutes, I would like to summarize that. Um, culture, what we have discussed, transformation of culture. There are basically four enablers to achieve a transformation of culture. The very first enabler is have visible, empowering leaders who can share a strong strategic narrative about the organization. And the second enabler is recruit, train, and support engaging managers to better focus their people and give them scope, treating them as individuals, coaching and stretching. The third enabler is give all your employees a voice of reinforcing and challenging views. Acknowledge them as a central to solving your business challenges and driving innovation. And the last but not the least enabler is have organizational integrity. Make sure the values on the wall are reflected in day to day behaviors of everyone in the business at all levels. And there is no say do gap anywhere. So we started with our first panelist, Saloni, who highlighted the definition of culture. Okay, so she highlighted that if there is a good culture, then only we are able to make that place a great place to work for. And she also, highlighted a couple of elements which actually makes a place a great place. So one of the elements she mentioned is having a purpose, and connecting people to that purpose is very important. Declaring values you have, you need to declare all the values. Open communication, yes, absolutely, open communication, having town hall meetings and communication. And at the same time, you need to listen to what people are saying, because in today's world we are realizing that there are a lot of spokesperson around, there are a lot of people, everybody wants to speak and talk, but there are very few people who are actually lending their ears to listen. Listening is really important. Create an environment of trust, which is again very very important tip Saloni highlighted. And then we move to another panelist, Deepak. So Deepak highlighted the importance of agility in transforming the culture. He mentioned the new normal, the post-COVID era days, wherein employees are working from home, and they are facing new challenges of working from home. Employees are working round the corner. Expectations setting is very important while working from home. And he highlighted that ensure all the employees are well taken care of when you they are working from home. It's really important. We have not dealt this situation of managing the remote teams, what we are doing now. So we are not able to see our people on day to day basis, but we need to maintain, create a bond so that they don't feel that they are neglected and they are being well taken care of. So he also mentioned a lot of good policies their company is practicing. And I really feel that, if every company emphasize on these practices, there won't be any dissatisfaction among employees. He mentioned that how they are engaging people on day to day basis, not only employees but their family members also, because family definitely plays a very very important role in having a good bonding with organization, because they also need to know that where their family members are working, what sort of people they are working with. So he also mentioned a lot of good policies, the practices they are following as an organization, like in this COVID era when people are working from home, where there is no working hours, they are ensuring that they are delivering all the deliverables as expected by an organization. So the company is also reciprocating by not cutting their salary, not deducting their salary, but increasing their salaries, which is I'm really impressed with the kind of thought process, Deepak, you're having in this COVID era. And I'm sure that a lot of leaders who are listening to you should actually take value adds from what you have mentioned. So reverse mentoring is also going on, wherein we are learning from our young ones around. And trust is really important, which you highlighted at the end, is really important, because if we don't trust our people, we'll not be able to have happy people, engaged people around. So, and then we moved on to our last panelist, Philippa. So Philippa beautifully started the discussion with a few statistics around. She highlighted the statistics around the importance of coaching in the organization, the company culture. She mentioned categorically is very very unique. Culture is very hard to talk about, and she also shared a story of a goldfish. How you swim in that water. So that was quite interesting, Philippa. So she mentioned that culture is the key foundation of any organization. The experience to She also shared her experience with an IT startup. So I can really resonate with what, Philippa, you experienced, because I am a startup mentor. So all these 23 years of my career, I have only worked for startups, and I feel empowered, because working for a startup really keeps you on toes, and you groom that startup like your own baby. You make that company as mature organization, and you learn not only vertically but horizontally as well. So kudos to that. So she also highlighted that how millennials will respond to this culture change, and then she shared few enablers to achieve the transformation of culture, some tips for employees they should follow, like adapt values, vision, behaviors of companies. Own your problem. It's very very important in this hybrid culture we are moving towards, wherein employees are no more expected to think like an employee, but as an entrepreneur, as an owner of that business. Okay, so they should own the problem. They should not approach the employer by a problem but with a solution. Influence to make things better, you mentioned, and it is very very important aspect, because there are people who are born leaders, and maybe they are not leaders as by hierarchy or as role or designation, but they are influencers in the company. So you need to have influence to make things better. Stay engaged is again, she mentioned, which is very, very important. You need to love your organization. You need to romance with your organization. It's like a marriage relationship wherein you need to reciprocate. It is like a give and take relationship. So somewhere you need to compromise or move ahead and adapt to another person, lifestyle or behavior, and it is like a vice versa thing. So with this note, I would like to end this session with a very meaningful quote on the culture, that cultural transformation in any company is a complex process. However, it can have a tremendous impact on your organization and its future. So the effort is worth it, and it will be reflected in your employee satisfaction and productivity numbers for many years to come. And culture is not an initiative, it's the enabler of all the initiatives. So with this quote, I would like to end here. And there are a lot of participants, and I'm thankful from core of my heart that they have taken out time, and they are here in this forum, and I'm sure they have a lot of questions with them. Michelle, would you help me in, raising the questions for all the panelists, because I'm sure they must be very anxious to ask lots and lots of questions around it. So, okay. So, first question I would like to ask here is that question from Mayank Saxena. He says that most of us belong to generations. Okay, so that is, we are just seeking employment to any pieces of advice to indulge into the culture. So I don't find any question. It is like a statement.
Mm.
Um, okay. So, okay, I will take another question. This is a question from Varneet Sharma. He's asking how to deal and resolve politics and miscommunication causing misunderstandings in the virtual world amongst employees. I will repeat the question. It is a question from Varneet Sharma. He's asking how to deal and resolve politics and miscommunication causing misunderstandings in this virtual world amongst employees. Uh, this is an open question. Any of you can take up this question.
So I would take this question. So when we talk about politics, so always remember that politics comes when there is a communication gap. So everything in this world is all about communication. How you communicate is how it is perceived. Uh, I would say when any sort of politics is happening, more of communication, open communication, heart to heart communication is required without a fear of anything, whether it's loss of business or loss of opportunity or loss of any other thing. Without thinking, one has to be very open from heart, without applying more of brains. I think the politics can be taken care of if we talk to the right person straight up, bang on to him, be a open heart discussion, have a cup of coffee, virtual coffee. I think this politics element will end there.
I have to agree with Deepak, Meenakshi. It's a case of getting the clarity, but the key is to go to the person who can actually give you the clarity, and not, when we were in a normal working environment, it would be, the corridor gossip conversations, and that would actually happen. That's not happening so much now because we're working remotely. That doesn't mean to say people are not communicating. It's the challenges is that it's not perhaps happening so easily, but it is still happening. But the key is to absolutely build on what Deepak says, is to seek the clarity, but from the right person. not from somebody who can't give you the answer, or not from your best mate, or not from necessarily your peer. Your boss, your line manager may not be able to do it, to answer the question, but go to the right person for the answer, because otherwise it's just going to grow the politics, and miscommunication will continue. Saloni, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
I think it all boils down to relationships at the end of the day, because if those are not there, these things are bound to happen. The conflicts and the politics will eventually happen. And sometimes, yes, they can be misplaced and they can be misdirected. And in this, we when we talked about communication, we talked about listening. Most of us actually communicate to just respond or react. We're not really listening. So only if we were to listen what the other person has to say completely, without any judgments, and actually being very active while the person is sharing what is it that he needs to say, many of these conflicts can actually be taken care of. So it's listening, not to and not while the person is speaking, you're preparing your response that as soon as he stops, I'm going to just say it. So actually listen to what the person has to say, and which is basically communication is a basic foundation for any relationship building, any rapport. And only when you're able to empathize, when you're able to understand where is it pinching the other person, when you have a conflict, it's like, oh, he's not supporting me, or he's not helping me, or he's actually gunning for me, so you need to just go back into the reasons as to why is it that things have come to a state like this, because there's something that have happened in the past, even if they were not intentional. There's something. So it's a clarification is so important. And while a person clarifies, it's important to hear the other person out completely and then share, okay, this is what I thought. So even our interpretations of situations, it's like you have a glass which is half water, so you can look at it as half full or half empty. Exactly the same way, your interpretation of situation can be either ways, and these can lead to conflicts which could have been avoided if there is more emotional intelligence in the workplace at play. If we are emotionally connected and it's in the nature of the way that we work as colleagues, work together, and not work as competitors. And that's why so much of team building and bonding is encouraged within organizations. So that if you have any such misplaced thoughts, go out and get it sorted, because once you know the person and not just know the official designation or the work that he does, you know the person behind that designation and behind that role, you can understand what kind of a person he is. And sometimes we say, oh, I thought so that she's like this, but she's not. Why? Because you saw her in a different setting. You saw her, you met her informally, or you spoke with that person as a person and not as somebody who is having a comment or passes loose comments about you. So give people a chance and expect the best from them. Be empathetic, show your emotional intelligence, and you can deal with any conflict.
Yes, in fact, thank you so much. I know all our panelists have so much of expertise and so much of practical insights to share around this topic. You rightly said that listen to your employees to understand, involve, act, and also adapt. So listening is definitely very important. So moving to our next question, we have so many questions lined up, so we'll have to keep the timelines also in mind, as we know that everybody has come out on a Sunday afternoon and they have a lot of family time. you know so the next question is around the pay cuts. So Anurag is asking how to deal with pay cuts, what is happening around these COVID days. So how to deal with pay cuts? Who would like to take up this question?
I mean, I think I will, and actually, I'll take up part of it
Yeah.
anyway. It's a very difficult topic, and pay cuts are a very difficult thing for people to handle. And I'm not sure, if you're talking from the point of view of a recipient of a pay cut, or the person who's got to
Yes.
get the message for the pay cut. Certainly, in the person who's giving the message, I think it's very clear to kind of understand it and get the buy-in of the people that you are doing it for, that you're giving a pay cut to, making sure that they understand the why. And one of the key things here is, is it a case that everybody needs to take, for example, a 20% pay cut in order for the organization to survive and in order for everybody in the organization to keep their jobs? Or is it a case of, we don't do a pay cut, but 20% of people are going to have to lose their jobs? And I'm sure the way that it's sold in, when people understand the why, that is absolutely critical. And from the other side, and I know Saloni and Deepak will have something to add to this. They're kind of more HR specialists than I am. But just talking it as a human being, I've had to take pay cuts in the past before. And it's again, I've asked the questions of the right people. Why? Help me understand why I need to take this pay cut. If I understand why, I may not always agree to the why, but at least I know the message behind it. And this is where I think so many organizations miss the trick. They don't describe the why. They just come out and say, right, pay cut for everybody, or pay cut for everybody except for the senior executives. I mean that's a common one as well. But that's my tip. Whether you're delivering the message, it's about ensuring the why is understood. And if you're just getting the message, if you haven't had the why explained, understand the why. It's really, really important. Saloni, Deepak, I know you'll have something to add.
Yeah,
You rightly said, yeah, sorry. You rightly said, Philippa, it is about open communication again. How and why are very, very important. How the message is being communicated with some facts and figures would really make it more realistic, instead of just giving a random statement of, why this pay cut. So, kyun hua, kis liye hua is very important. They need to know the statistics around it, that what the company is going through, the profit statement, the balance sheet statement. So more data you share with your employees would really make it more realistic. Like I remember in my last organization, when we had all these experiences, of appraisals or around pay cuts, we used to be very, very objective in sharing the information. And it used to be a very, very open communication with all the facts and figures in place, so that people know before approaching the HR that this is what it is, and who is being affected, why he's been affected, and how much he's been affected is something a right of an employee to know. Yeah, please, over to you.
And also the human touch behind it. I don't even
Yes.
necessarily agree that knowing all the statistics and data behind it matters, because
Mm.
the employee just thinks, oh my God, my money is being cut and how am I going to deal with it? It's an emotional experience. So it's about tapping into those emotions and putting, empathy is too weak a word for it, really, because it doesn't give it the importance, but it's being human about it and understanding the feelings behind it. Saloni's dying to jump in. Go, girl.
I will add to this, apart from how and why, I would also till when, which is very important for an employee to understand in a very open environment, is that this pay cut is there, which is fine. We need to understand, we need to make him understand, but till when? So at times an organization has an answer till when, at times you don't have an answer for this till when, because this is not in your hand. Every organization who has employed an employee, they have not employed that particular employee to cut the pay. Eventually, whosoever got hired, either they got hired because they agreed to a particular agreement in terms of how much is the salary which they will be getting paid, or they have come with an increase of salary. So this is very important till when, and to address this particular issue, there are certain things which are out of hand. So like COVID-19, no one in the world knew about this particular thing, and it came all of a sudden. Um, we used to go out, we used to do a lot of socialing, we used to go out to offices 9 to 6, there were chaos in the market, everything has gone. Nobody knew when there was a first lockdown that till when it will be there. Now, when you see there was a forced lockdown, then lockdown 1, lockdown 2, lockdown 3, and now everything has opened up. And if you see the way behaviors is changing the entire, everybody in this world. Earlier, when there was a lockdown, people used to force that when we will be able to go out, because they did not understand what we are dealing with. Now everybody understands that what we are dealing with, because people through media, through managers, to doctors, to all the things available on the various platform, they know what COVID is all about. Now when everything is opened up, people are not moving out. So similarly, when the pay cuts are happening, the employer has to ensure that why this has happened, how it has impacted, how to address that, sustainability, until when this would be. There's certain things which should be clear, and I think uh, if the employer or employer is not able to make out a mutual understanding, I don't think it will work further on. So one has to understand this very clearly. And because this is an industry specific, it is like for an airline industry, it is hit for tourism, there is a hit. So one has to understand it is not about an A employer or a B employer. It's A, B, C, all have been impacted.
Yeah, in fact, you said it rightly, Deepak, how, why, and when, all these things employee has a right to know, because every employee is different in his behavior. So some employees are, already updated with all the industry information around. Some employees are not updated. So we need to make it very, very universal fact, whenever we are declaring such announcements. So moving to next question, Deepak, this question is specifically for you. Saloni, you would like to add something onto this?
The like
Okay.
COVID, many organizations have resorted to pay cuts, and though they may be temporary in nature, which means that just to tide over the existing crisis, and to also communicate with transparency about what has prompted this decision, that the, let's say, the management is taking. So that instead of cutting jobs, at least if we were to just reduce the expenses, which is difficult, right, to absorb all expenses, if you were to go ahead and reduce salaries 100%, then it's a choice between saving jobs and taking a pay cut. And even that pay cut is temporary. So I know of my own clients who did this very successfully. And then 3 months later, they released it. They released it, and it was to the joy of the employees because they were not expecting this to come back. They were expecting that this pay cut, which is temporary for a certain period, is gone, and they will not get that salary release again. So it's important to also understand that when you're communicating, like rightly pointed out by Philippa and also by DJ, the 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 way you share and all the reasons behind a decision and how you came to that decision, it makes it more acceptable because what we're seeking from our workforce is flexibility in supporting the organization and tiding over the current times. And I think organizations who are able to do this with with the empathy in with the transparency, more than empathy, it's also transparency, and that's really where the ownership of the decision is not like on them. It's like it's accepted, so they own that decision. It's not like, oh, this has been come upon us. So it's more accepting. People are more accepting of that decision, and to the joy of at least those the companies where I'm consulting, even the salaries have come back that were withheld earlier on. Just needed to say this.
Okay, so great, great, Saloni, for adding your valuable tips. So the next question is specifically for Deepak. Deepak, this question is from Vaneet Sharma. He's asking that what do you prefer now, working from home or offline in cubicles, according to workers and company? What do you prefer?
Well, that's a nice question. So, again, if I have to say whether COVID or no COVID, it's a new normal. So, anyone, if you ask anyone in the world that, okay, which is the most loveliest place in the world where you like to stay, Even if you go to any place in the world in a best of 5 star, end of the day, after 5 days or 15 days or 20 days of your leisure trip, when you come back home, you say, wow, we are back. This is my bed. This is my place. This is my area which makes me more energetic. So definitely, yes, work from home. I would opt in. However, when we talk about work from home, we have to have certain reasons that how disciplined I am. One has to be very disciplined in terms of working from home, and working from home, definitely I feel in specifically when we talk about a consulting firm or a professional services or an IT, wherein physical appearance is not required, because we work globally. People get hired from India to US to UK to Australia. We take interviews around the world, around the clock. So work from home gives me a flexibility, to not only to me, to my employees, that if they have an interview to take place at, we maybe in the night or maybe in the Australia early morning wee hours, they don't have to be present in the office. Earlier it used to be very difficult. Somebody was staying back, or maybe somebody was lined up to an xyz shift. Now the employees have a flexibility, that you want to work from 6 to 4 or 4 to 12, or maybe run, or whatever time you are. So you are able to manage your family life very well. And definitely work from home increases the productivity. Again, I'm saying it depends on each one of us, how sincere we are, how disciplined we are. If we are able to if we are able to differentiate between work within work and home versus work, I think this particular thing is taken care of.
Great, great, Deepak. So the last question for today, because we have a few more questions, but there are repetitive ones, what I can see. But Michelle, I would request, if you have any questions after this, you can please mail to any of us, and we would be happy to answer it back very soon. So the last question for day is for Philippa, from Anurag. He's asking, how can you prevent misunderstandings when working with diversity?
That's a very,
So,
very interesting question. Diversity of what would be a question, because diversity is such a massive, massive area. So I guess again, it comes down to communication. It comes down to talking, and it depends on what the actual issue is. It's about I guess understanding where you need to go, or who you need to go to speak to, and sitting down and having that clear communication. It's quite a challenging one, because again, it doesn't it you know, diversity is so great. Diversity of what? Diversity of culture. Diversity, is it to do with um, age, gender, sexual orientation? Is it to do with culture? I mean, what? But my key thing would be is to understand and try and, in your own mind, pinpoint what the challenge is, why it exists, and then from a future employee point of view, is actually speak to the right person about it. Somebody you feel comfortable with. So whether that is somebody within the organization or somebody outside the organization, whether that be a line manager, whether that be somebody in HR, but it has to be somebody, as Deepak was talking about earlier, about somebody that you trust. Trust is a very important thing here. And if at the end of the day it's not any of those people, is it a simple member of your family you can speak to? But the minute you actually start to vocalize it, and actually talk about it, you've won 50% of the battle, because you're acknowledging it within yourself, and then you can actually do something about it. But my key to this would be pinpoint the challenge, or where the challenge actually lies, and then actually talk to the right person, but somebody that you trust and somebody that you feel comfortable with. Saloni, do you want to add anything to that?
Yes, I believe, to support what you said, when you look at diversity, you are basically looking at things that are so the intention of what is it that you're communicating to be able to deal with misunderstandings needs to be there first. So if your intention is very clear and transparent, and speaking to the right person is also important, because when we communicate, how is that communication being received, and taking away the same sense of or gist of what is it that you are trying to share with the person is also important. So dealing with diversity is also to do with that. Have you taken care that whatever you are speaking is actually relevant and addressable to the entire workforce section? Is it something which only caters to one specific group? Uh, and hopefully, not only is it meaningful to the entire workforce, not only is it making sense, not only is it helping bring about more autonomy in expressing, and including people's thought process. Not only is it about talking about growth, for example, or creating an impact, and then the eventual change. I think these are all important points when we look at diversity that we should look at, so that we are not excluding anyone, but we are taking the entire workforce as one together. We're not differentiating, and we are being respectful, whatever be the group that we are addressing.
Great point you have highlighted, Saloni. Wonderful. So, with this note, I would like to thank L2S Virtual Connect to Michelle for getting all of us together here in this platform. Thank you so much for your time, Saloni. Thank you so much, Deepak, and thank you so much, Philippa. It was great hearing your valuable insights on transforming culture. So, over to you, Michelle, if you would like to add something to this.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I would say, Minakshi, to all my guests who has entered here and give us your wonderful time to us. On that note, from on behalf of L2S Virtual Learning Connect by Led Us to Success and our guest Minakshi, Saloni, Deepak, Philippa. I'm so glad that you have joined us today and have a great rest of the day. We are also coming up with another series by next week, and same would be communicate to you via WhatsApp and our social channels. Our WhatsApp is 935489490 for future series. This coming week is a career series where we are going to launch a lot of tips and with a lot of leaders who will coming up from all the across channels, from engineering, from marketing to pharma to manufacturing to all those areas, and would request if you can participate. And on that note, I would request each and everyone, thank you so much for joining us today, and have a rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So we can all leave now. Have a great day ahead. Thank you.